Being here this morning. I love this city. I love Los Angeles. I love the way that at a time when the world feels like it's pulling apart in so many ways, that we have a city where people can find a way to pull together. And I'm so pleased to be here today as your mayor and with these leaders who have been in this room and rooms around City Hall, who represent people who have been in boardrooms and out on the street, to be able to share good news with you this morning. All of us have a huge stake in our schools. It represents the future not only of this city, but in many ways our core values, who we are, what we see in our children, and what sort of future city we want to have. We have seen over the last few weeks the way that the city has rallied around public education. Quite frankly, it's been breathtaking. It's been inspiring to see. And for a city that embraced the idea that public education matters, that children matter, that teachers matter, today is a day full of good news. Now, I have to give full disclosure. The three of us, or many of us up here, have not slept one bit. So we have been in the latest session, after 5 days of negotiating, a 21-hour marathon session that wrapped up just before sunrise this morning. But this district and this union that brought their passion, their persistence, and their commitment to talks here at City Hall, we spent the better part of these last 5 days and into a sixth day hashing out details. And I'm proud to announce that pending approval by the teachers represented by UTLA and education professionals and the Board of Education, that we have an agreement that will allow our teachers to go back to work on their campuses tomorrow. I've said from the start that this was a fight and a discussion worth having, that smaller class sizes, that the sort of campuses that are based in communities and that listen to teachers and that listen to parents, and that also recognizes the constraints of the resources that are available is what we would need to have in order to resolve this. Being mayor of a city as large and as complex as Los Angeles, I know that you have to be fiscally responsive, but you also, as the saying says, sometimes have to make sure that your reach exceeds your grasp. That we look towards what we want to be, not always today, but who we want to be tomorrow. I know that every parent agrees with a broad and expansive vision, and I know most importantly that these two leaders and their team embraced that and found a way to be able to make that happen. As I said, none of us have slept. And the informal talks that began last week followed formal negotiations over the last 5 days into a sixth day today. But everyone on every side has worked tirelessly to make this happen. I want to give thanks to the team at UTLA, Alex Caputo-Pearl, to Arlene Inouye, who is in here, I know, probably back there. Oh, there she is, right there, still standing, and Jeff Good, who became part of a trio mirrored by Austin Beutner, his team with Vivian Ekchian and Pedro Salcido, who together with Matt Zabo, my deputy chief of staff, became 8 folks that, while the larger groups worked on many detailed issues and did extraordinary work, came together to make sure that we kept moving forward. I also want to say a few words to the Angelenos who have been affected by this strike. It's been a difficult week, I know, for families, and an electrifying week as well for educators and the supporters of teachers. I know that our public schools are entrusted with our most precious resource, our children, and have a mission to shape the future of our city. A free and excellent public education is the right of every child in Los Angeles. The places that we trust our children reflect our values, places where we'll learn lessons, where a girl growing up in the San Fernando Valley will help people land on Mars, where the next Steven Spielberg is learning how to use a video camera. A great musician, part of a jazz band, will change the way that we hear music. Our future is literally in their hands, guided by the teachers and education professionals who are with them every single day. And nothing is more fundamental to our city than that. Before I finish up, I also want to thank a lot of city leaders who helped during this time. Mike Scholl, the entire Rec and Parks team, folks, John Zabo, our city librarian, folks who were able to keep city facilities going, and of course our police chief, Mike Moore, who ensured that our children were safe during all of this time. I want to thank the dedicated, hardworking principals and support staff across the district, for taking care of students who have been on campus this week, and of course for parents who I know felt as passionately as anybody about the future of their schools as well. One last thing I'll say, this is a good agreement. It is a historic agreement. It gets to lower class sizes. It gets to proper support staff, to community-based schools, to special ed, adult ed, to expanded green space, and the list goes on, and these folks will be able to detail that even more. But I want to give credit to these two leaders and their teams. Credit, we're happy to convene this. I was happy to play a small role, but this would not have been done if they didn't stick to it, and if two folks didn't say it's time for a new day in public education in Los Angeles. That new day begins now. This is not the end. This is the beginning of making sure that LA gets the schools that they deserve. I'll come back for Spanish, but let me turn it over now to the superintendent of our school district, Austin Beutner.
Good morning. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted we've reached an agreement with UTLA that provides teachers with a well-deserved salary increase, that will reduce class size, and add more support to our students and educators in schools, including librarians, nurses, and counselors. I want to thank Mayor Garcetti for his leadership, his efforts to bring us together, and helping us solve this. And I want to thank Alex Caputo-Pearl and UTLA's leadership for their commitment to moving forward together. Today marks a new chapter in public education, a new chapter for Los Angeles Unified. Public education is the ultimate labor management collaborative, and this agreement reflects this in spirit and in letter. We entered contract negotiations with 4 objectives, and this agreement will achieve all of them. The first was to provide a fair 6% increase to all who work in schools. The second was to reduce class sizes, provide more support to educators in schools, more nurses, counselors, and librarians. The third was to invest every nickel we have in our classrooms while maintaining the fiscal solvency of Los Angeles Unified. And the last, probably the most important, is to strengthen the voice of educators and provide more opportunities for collaboration for all who work in our schools. It's important to note that Los Angeles Unified and UTLA have always agreed that teachers and all who work in our schools deserve better pay, that our schools need smaller class sizes, and that both students and teachers need more support in the form of nurses, counselors, and librarians, and others who support both our students and educators in schools. The issue has always been, how do we pay for it? And that issue does not go away now that we have a contract. We can't solve 40 years of underinvestment in public education in just 1 week or just one contract. And the frustration felt by our educators, the poverty that impacts our students, and the political or politicized nature of leadership in Los Angeles Unified have been decades in the making. Now that all students and our educators are heading back to the classroom, we have to keep our focus and pay attention to long-term solutions. And we'll have more to say about that in coming days. The importance of this moment is public education is now the topic in every household in our community. Let's capitalize on this. Let's fix it so students won't continue to miss out on opportunity for the next 40 years. The strike nobody wanted is now behind us. We know the past week has been tough on students, families, and employees. We're grateful for all those who came to schools last week and went above and beyond to support our students and keep our schools open. And we welcome back with open arms and warm hearts our educators and look forward to a new day of learning for all of our students. Today and tomorrow, when school opens, begins a new chapter in every classroom and every school in Los Angeles Unified. A chapter built on the strong foundation in this contract and a commitment to work together, all of us, to make sure every student gets a great education. Thank you.
Finally, let me ask the leader of United Teachers Los Angeles, part of a huge group that we have seen on our streets, our friends, our neighbors. This was the room, by the way, with a long table in which they were here for a long time. You can see the committee back there raising their hands. Whatever it took, I want to thank them, but they've been led by a fabulous leader. Please welcome Alex Caputo-Pearl.
All right. Okay, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. Doing well? All right. My name's Alex Caputo-Pearl. I'm the president of United Teachers Los Angeles. I'm an LAUSD parent and also have been a teacher in Compton Unified School District and South LA for 22 years. I want to thank Mayor Garcetti and his team for the work that they did to bring us together. I want to thank Austin Beutner for the work that he did throughout these negotiations, and his team, of course. And I want to thank our team. I've got one of our bargaining chairs up here, Arlene Inoue, and our other bargaining co-chair, Jeff Good, is still hard at work on crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. And also, of course, thank our bargaining team who are in back, classroom educators, counselors who are real good bargainers and have really learned the art of that. So we have seen over the last week something pretty amazing happen. We went on strike in one of the largest strikes that the United States has seen in decades, and the creativity and innovation and passion and love and emotion of our members was out on the street, in the communities, in the parks, for everyone to see. And I'm so proud of our members, classroom teachers, counselors, nurses, librarians, psychologists, early educators, adult educators, who took it upon themselves in record numbers on picket lines to express what we've all known, but has been a truth hard to tell sometimes, which is that public education desperately needs attention from the city, from the country, from the state. Through those actions, we were able, and through working with Mayor Garcetti and Austin Beutner and the teams here, we were able to reach an agreement that we'll be able to explain more details of later, but include so many elements that are so important to our students, to our families, to our parents. Some of the, just quickly, a little list. Class size is something that has desperately needed to be addressed in Los Angeles, and we have started down a real path to addressing class size. Nurses, librarians, and counselors. So many schools have gone without for so long, and now they'll have these crucial services. We talked about charter schools and the importance of investing in existing schools and really having accountability and regulation on charter schools, which is a part of this broader agreement. Charter co-location. Making sure that district neighborhood schools are able to actually have a voice when charter schools are given part of those campuses. We talked a lot about advocating together as the mayor's office, as the superintendent's office, as the school board, as other leaders across the city to advocate for more funding for public schools, whether it be from the county, from the state, or federally. And we were able to have several phone calls with state leaders to start that process of working jointly on that. We as UTLA couldn't be prouder to be a part of the coalition behind the Schools and Communities First initiative that will be on the ballot in November of 2020. And we've all got a lot of work to do to make sure that that ballot initiative passes. Of course, salary is a key component, which we were able to reach an agreement for our members. Special education, a long neglected field, sees some improvements in this agreement. Standardized testing, which is sometimes crowded out curriculum like ethnic studies, music, and the arts. That's a part of this agreement. And I'll just mention one last thing before I close, and that is that when UTLA started this journey 2 years ago, surveying our members for what they were interested in changing, surveying students, surveying communities, surveying parents, we took on this idea of bargaining for the common good, which is the idea of bringing to the bargaining table some issues that aren't typically brought to the bargaining table. And I'm happy to say that through the leadership of LAUSD and the mayor's office, we were able to make some real progress on things like community schools, investing in a new, exciting model of schooling that brings the community in, brings wraparound services in. We've got some exciting things to talk about regarding green space, expanding green space at schools, and making sure that searches that are done at schools don't criminalize students or operate in a racial profiling sense. So this is much more than just a narrow labor agreement. It's a very broad compact around things that get at social justice, educational justice, and racial justice. And I'll close with this again to our members, who I've been so moved to be with on picket lines and neighborhoods and rallies as they've taken a risk and sacrificed themselves for these changes over the last week of striking. Our members are going to vote on this today. We're a democratic union. We don't sign off on an agreement as a group of 15 leaders. We don't sign off for 34,000. All 34,000 of our members are going to be in meetings for the rest of the afternoon and evening where they're familiarizing themselves with this. They'll vote on it, and then we'll be able to speak to you all later this afternoon or early evening once it is approved, and we expect it will be approved because it's a great agreement, and that will signal that we will all be back at school tomorrow where teachers and educators want to be with their students. So I thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.
A few other thank yous and then some words in Spanish, and then I know you have questions. I want to thank our governor. To have a governor who has prioritized education in his first budget, who was regularly in conversations with us as a threesome as well as in individual conversations with us, I want to thank him. I want to thank our legislative leaders, including Speaker Rendon, who was a big part of this, our State Superintendent, Tony Thurmond, who is down here and in regular contact, our Attorney General, Javier Becerra, who we reached out to and who is part of this as well. I want to thank as well our County Board of Supervisors for the motion they put forward on the mental health care dollars that we can put into our schools. Our hope that that is not just a great start, but something that could be ongoing with Prop 63 dollars. And in anticipation, our Board of Education, folks who we're regularly in contact with as well. This was truly an amazing coalition. Local leaders like Antonio Hernandez and Fred Ali from the philanthropic community who wanted to step up. I see Randy Weingarten, some of our national labor leaders and others who I was in regular contact, and others as well. I want to thank them too. I'm sure I've forgotten some, but it really took dozens of conversations over weeks to build this coalition. This is not a coalition we put together just to get a contract done. It's a coalition that I think we all intend to have schools and communities first, get over the finish line to assess what we can do here with local funding measures. And my ask of these two was if we could develop a new culture of collaboration and cooperation, that I would help lean in with the power of this office and the entire city to keep that momentum going, to make sure we could add to this contract in future years by working closely with the voters. So very excited to do that work and proud to be able to support that. Brevemente también en español yo quiero decir unas palabras. Gracias a todos por estar aquí esta mañana. Nada es más importante que la educación y la seguridad de nuestros hijos. Todos tenemos un interés en este debate sobre cómo fortalecer nuestras escuelas, porque lo que se decide determinará cómo construimos un futuro mejor para nuestra ciudad y para nuestras comunidades. Estoy agradecido al liderazgo del distrito y del sindicato, y estos dos grandes líderes, el superintendente Austin Beutner y también Alex Caputo-Pearl, el presidente de este sindicato, y su equipo también, por haber regresado a la mesa para negociar y por aportar su pasión, persistencia y compromiso a estas negociaciones. Hemos pasado la gran parte de los últimos 5 días y parte del 6º día analizando los detalles juntos aquí en el ayuntamiento. Y estoy orgulloso de anunciar que tenemos un acuerdo provisional y con el voto de los maestros, nuestros niños y sus maestros pueden regresar a sus campuses mañana. Yo sé que ha sido una semana difícil para las familias en Los Ángeles, pero la energía en esta ciudad fue increíble. Y esta nueva coalición es una fundación para la acción, un programa del futuro, a poner nuestras escuelas, el sistema de educación al centro de esta ciudad. Quisiera agradecer a todos quienes ayudaron durante la huelga, el gobernador, los líderes estatales, los líderes del condado de Los Ángeles y también en el distrito de escuelas, incluyendo nuestros equipos en los sitios de recreación y parques, bibliotecas públicas, tanto como los administradores y personal de apoyo en nuestras escuelas. Es un día histórico. Gracias a los equipos. And with that, we'll be happy to answer questions.
So, Alex, can I ask you very quickly, part of the negotiations throughout this process, you've sort of demonized the superintendent as a corporatist, a shill for billionaires, not interested in public education, but the privatization of LAUSD. If that's true, how can you trust the current administration, the superintendent, to implement this deal fairly?
We have, Austin Beutner and I, we certainly have our differences, and we've expressed those, and I think we'll continue to express those. But what we've been able to do over the last chunk of days is work together with a bunch of partners and a bunch of help to forge an agreement that we're both committed to making sure is implemented to make sure that our students are served and our schools are improved. I want to quickly recognize 2 folks who have been incredibly important in the support to educators and parents, all the parents who have come out in record numbers to support educators and this contract campaign, and that is the president of American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, and the president of the National Educators Association, Lily Eskelsen Garcia. So if we can give them a nice round of applause, Randy and Lily.
So you trust him? You trust him?
We're building trust, and the last several days have helped on that. And the fact that we have a good agreement that's focused on schools, focused on families, focused on students, is going to help us move forward in a way that we continue to build trust.
Can either of you address whether additional funds were secured either from the state or from the reserve to meet what it has?
Sure. As we said, we're spending every nickel we have. The reserve's being spent in schools. The county has stepped up to help support mental health and nursing in our schools. And the governor's team and leadership in Sacramento have. So it's all in for schools. And as both Alex and the mayor have alluded to, this is the start, not the end. This is the start because we need to bring the energy, the conversation in the community to make sure as we go forward we have even more support for our schools.
Just a little more detail on that, just really briefly. And let me get you, I promise to get next. A little more detail on that will come out later, but it does include, we know what the county has done. We're hoping, as I said, that would be ongoing. We've talked to the state. Some of that will require work in the legislature or the May revise, but folks have said that they would publicly speak out for those, which gives them a very good chance of being able to be part of that. The city has stepped up. We said that we would include, for instance, some of the anti-violence work that we have young people engaged in with our gang reduction youth development teams on our campuses. There's county and city measures for water and parks that can go into greening of campuses. So there are a lot of pieces that come from other places. To the previous question, let me just say this one thing too. It's time for the caricatures, I think, to end. This is not a superintendent who is a privatizer, corporatist, person working for special interests, and this is not some union just interested and drunk with their power for the sake of power. These are people who are committed to public education. It's a beginning of a new day, of a new relationship. I said I will continue to lean in with both of them as long as there's that ongoing relationship. We actually got along quite well when we were in the room. We were able to fight with each other when we need to fight each other or to witness fights when that was necessary. I'm not saying everybody's going to go and have a beer together today, but I do think that this is a new chapter, one in which they need each other, and I need them to need each other, and I want to be involved with that too. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, is there enough money to pay for this deal now, or you talk about we have Superintendent Beutner that now we got to figure out how to pay for it? So what's the strategy going forward to get the money that you need, the extra money?
As I said, we can't fix 40 years of underinvestment in a week or one contract. So what we agreed on was to put as much as we can in now and build a commitment, a shared commitment to do even more to make sure that we honor those commitments to our educators and to our students to reduce class size, to have the right amount of support in schools. And we'll be talking with the community more about that in the coming weeks and months.
Can you give us the specific details of the tentative agreement in terms of how much of a salary increase, how much class size reduction?
It's a 6% salary increase, meaningful class size reduction. I apologize, we've been at this 24/7 for a little bit of time, so we'll provide a more detailed briefing to everybody here shortly.
No cap, as you mentioned, as far as students.
I'm sorry?
No specific cap for students in the classroom.
There's a lot of detail there. Again, we'll give you all that detail. Suffice it to say that all of us, Alex and I and our team, spent a lot of time because we all believe we need smaller classes. And so we did everything we could to make that happen today, tomorrow, and in the years to come. And in just a couple of years, those who'll be entering our kindergarten classrooms will see the benefit of all of it. So we built a bridge, and we're going to take that bridge and do even more for our students.
What would be secret sauce here, though? Because for 20 months, you've been working without a contract, and then within a week, you're able to finally make headway. What exactly, why were you able, as two organizations and the mayor, what was the secret sauce that made it come together at this point?
Well,
Mayor, you may need to speak to that too, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sure Austin and the mayor have some things to say about this. I'll just say real quickly on the class size question. We're very gratified that a part of this agreement is doing away with the provision that had allowed the district to essentially have an escape valve from class size caps. And so the district has made a very responsible move in getting rid of that so that we actually can have class size caps, and every school across the city will be receiving investments in a scaffolded way over time that moves those class size caps lower and lower. So we're very gratified about that. I would just say my view, again, the folks behind me will have other views about this. My view is that educators and parents reached a boiling point, and it's not just a boiling point over the last 6 months. It's a boiling point over the last 10 years about conditions in classrooms, things parents care about, students care about, educators care about. We went on strike. Frankly, it became the biggest national story there was out there, and it has brought us not only to an agreement, but to a commitment to really fight for public education in a new way across all of our different sectors and all of our different experiences, and I'm very grateful for that.
What was the toughest topic to solve in negotiation? What was the one thing that was the hardest to get over?
That's a long answer. Go ahead.
The toughest topic. I think the previous question sort of framed it, which is this is 40 years of underinvestment, decades of genuine frustration by educators, their voice not being heard, the resources they needed to do the job not in schools, and a recognition by all of us that we're trying to solve that. We're trying to solve that in a way to get educators back in schools as fast as we can, to make sure students are supported today, but an agreement that we can look forward. So I'd say the hardest thing was to realize that it's not about the protagonists, that it's actually about all of us and our shared commitment to public education, because this hasn't been the way this district, this hasn't been the way the relationship with labor in the district that we'd all like to see. And so I think we all took a leap together to say, let's just start with a clean slate. Let's agree on what we want to do, which is to better support our students and everyone who works in schools with our students. And with that foundation, a lot of the things that had been log jams, we said, we're kind of in the same place on that. Let's agree on that. We want to do better. How can we do better? But once we got through sort of that mind shift of we're building from the same place, trying to get the same objective, trying to build the same support, a lot of things became easier.
I know you're not getting into specifics of the agreement, but how is it different from the last offer that was rejected a little more than a week ago? Can you talk about how today's agreement is different from the last one that we knew about?
I think suffice it to say this does even more, and we'll share those details later today.
Did you say not to support parcel tags in the 2018 general election? Was that a strategic error that contributed to the strike on the part of the board not to support parcel tags?
No, I don't think so. I think what you see today is 3 people committed, 3 institutions committed to making sure we have all the resources we need in schools, and we're going to do that together.
Without going into specifics, can you give us a feel for how many additional dollars you were able to earmark for education?
Again, we will have all in due course. We left the bargaining table, each of us went and put on a tie or put on a jacket and came back. So we'll share that as soon as we can, but we wanted to let our communities know that we'd reached this agreement, this truly historic agreement, and that we look forward to tomorrow being the first day of a new chapter in schools.
Have you let the county know of your details because they are your fiscal overseer? Do they know what's coming? Will they okay this?
As the mayor alluded to, we've been in conversations at the state level, at the county level, and at the local level, and made sure not just those leaders who've offered to help, but the regulators who look at the work we do understand what we're doing, the risks we're taking, how we've stretched, how we found every nickel we could, and we're confident they'll support this.
On the charter cap part of this deal, is there anything on the charter cap and as part of this deal, supporting the charter cap?
I'll answer that for you guys. You cannot, it's not formally something that can be in the deal, but there were certainly discussions about that, and stand by.
Can you give us more details on what the cap size on classes are and what the...
It's so complicated. I'll let them come in, but it's so complicated on different types of classes. But suffice it to say that in the first year, every school would see a reduction. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that it would be at least of 1. In some cases, some targeted stuff that I think they came to agreement on, and the schools that need most. Second year would see further reductions in all schools on an average of at least that, and so on and so forth. So every year for the next 4 years, there will see reductions, and I'll let the union and the superintendent at the proper time. I think they needed to share that with their members first, but it goes down to the levels that the union was advocating for and that this district could live with. To the previous question, I want to say, will the county sign off? Any deal that Alex Caputo-Pearl signed off on gave me great confidence that this was justice for teachers. Any deal that Austin Beutner signed off gave me great confidence that fiscally the county will sign off on it.
Mayor, going forward, how important in the financing statewide and for the district is the effort at 2020 to change the
Yeah.
split roll on top of it?
I think it's absolutely critical, as well as looking at local measures. And I know that folks think that sometimes if you do too many, some of them won't pass. That's not been my experience when 2 housing measures passed just after 2 homeless measures in sequence about 4 months apart at the city and county level. When people are focused on something the way we've seen the passion on the streets, I'm confident that they will say, this isn't enough. Nobody would claim this contract as the final destination of what we want to see for public education. Great schools cannot be covered by the few resources that we have, and the great strides in this contract, as big as they are, don't get us there. So I do believe that we need that at the state level. We do need that at the local level, and we'll be working very closely and making a case to voters that if you want to see this go further to where we all want public education to be, you will have that power.
So this isn't predicated on passage?
No, we do know we can go further and stronger with those. But I want to be clear, I would not go to voters to say, hey, you know, we passed something that depends on you passing a measure. We want to go to voters and say, do you want to keep going on this route? And I think that's the responsible way, and I think voters will say yes.
Will you be asking for a parcel tax for the 2020 ballot?
That's for the Board of Education, but certainly if they put it on, I will be looking at that very positively.
Is that in the works, or is that something you intend to pursue?
So underinvestment for 40 years, we've gone in California from top of the charts to middle and the bottom of the charts. State of California provides about $16,000 to invest in a child's education here in Los Angeles. New York City, more than 20,000. That's an opportunity gap that we hope to convince all of those who are in this conversation. The topic of conversation in every household in Los Angeles and in California is public education, and I think we can make a compelling case to voters across the state. We can make a compelling case to voters in Los Angeles that we not only need funding in our classrooms for educators, we need to continue to make our facilities better. We need to make sure we have science labs, we have dance classrooms, we have recreation space and green space in our schools. So all of this will be a further conversation we'll have in the coming weeks and months with our community.
Mayor, it seemed before that the two sides were very far apart. You got involved, things changed, you talked about this new era of collaboration. What happened to make that happen?
We had two leaders and two teams willing to listen to each other. I had the honor of being able to shuttle back and forth and say, look, let me tell you, without betraying any confidences, what the values I hear in private coming from both sides are. I wasn't trying to be Pollyannish. I wasn't trying to sell anybody when I said a week and a half ago that I didn't think a lot of daylight separated the district and the union. They might have been talking past each other and over each other. People felt like they hadn't been listened to. But once I was able to hear that, I wouldn't have gotten involved if I thought it was two people who wanted to be on a collision course, you know, with each other and not resolve this. I knew in their hearts they wanted the same things. It was flip sides of the same coin. The union helped push further, and a good deal is one that I'm sure both sides feel a little bit uncomfortable with. I gotta say, I really do feel this is historic. Not just historic for Los Angeles, but for this nation. We've got Oakland on the verge of a strike. We've got other places that we've learned from. We're seeing in Cincinnati and Austin and Baltimore and part of New York, community-based schools. We've seen some of the best lessons that have been learned from schools here in Los Angeles and around this country that are about less bureaucracy and more local control. And they were able to apply that. And so we had a place to convene. We were able to shuttle back and forth, but the credit goes to them and their teams. The credit goes to the people in Los Angeles who stood up and said, we will make this a priority, and we intend to keep going back to those people to say, if it's still a priority, don't expect it all to be done at a table. How are we going to collectively make sure resources value education properly?
So did the strike help?
Yeah, no, there's no question. Look, the strike was painful and it had a cost, but there's no question, how do we get here? The strike helped in the end of the day. Listening to each other helped. And I think some neutral territory helped, as well as the national conversation on this. I think all of those things contributed to making this happen. And, you know, I guess I can tell you now, Cardi B got involved at the end, too, and that helped, too. No, she did not. I was kidding. If you haven't seen the video, check it out.
I got a quick response to your question, but first I want to make sure that people give credit where credit is due to Justin, who is an incredible interpreter here. Let's give it up for Justin. And he's red is his new color in his wardrobe. So I wanted to just say something real quickly about what happened over the last couple of weeks. And, you know, not everybody's going to agree with this, but I'm going to say it. Big public education systems get criticized a lot, especially big urban public education systems. And certainly they have their problems. But one of the things that happened over the last couple of weeks was an absolute groundswell of support of parents, communities, students for their schools. A lot of it was about supporting teachers, but a lot of it was about supporting their schools that they love, public neighborhood schools. And that was just really moving to see students like Marche Doss at Dorsey High School taking leadership at her school around supporting teachers, but also supporting her school. And Austin Beutner has done a good job of using this moment to focus that energy, and that's going to continue. The other thing I want to say is, obviously, this is a crucial moment for unions in the United States. The Supreme Court came headlong after unions last summer, and a lot of people are questioning what's the future of unions. And what the educators in Los Angeles did in the last week and a half is they said, our union matters, our schools matter, our coworkers matter, our students matter, our parents matter, our families matter, and our union helps tie it all together. And they took the bold move of going on strike, which can be scary, which can involve sacrifice, And that is one of the stories here, is about big public education systems like the one that Austin Beutner is head of, and big unions like the ones that our members are the lifeblood of. And this strike, like the mayor said, this strike has helped not only move to this agreement, but has helped raise the issue of public education up nationally and even internationally in a way that we're now all prepared to take advantage of and taking the next steps.
How do you have this goodwill continue? I've seen you at press conferences announcing there's a new culture change with the DWP and that, the Owens Valley Lockheed Metal and things are good. I see you stand with rappers at the LAUSD headquarters and new culture. Both instances, things unraveled a little bit. Those sort of things.
You agree, disagree?
With Owens Valley. But I guess I'm just saying, is there going to be metrics or something to judge what this deal is in a year? So we're hearing a lot of good feelings. But
Sure.
how do you?
Relationships take work. I don't pretend that overnight there's not going to ever be moments when the union and the district see things differently. But starting from zero, this is a really, really good day. I'm not going to overstate, but I will say this. My involvement, continuing involvement, will be predicated on keeping a culture together. So the one thing I told them very honestly is, if I had one stick, it was like, I want to see you guys get along so that I can push in hard if there's local funding measures and other things we can do. And I think they got that too. Why would the state get deeply involved if we're always at war with each other? Why would foundations get involved if we never get along? Why would the county or city put their precious resources into a school district where we don't even know if it will be spent in harmony? And so we have carrots and sticks together, but it's really going to take tending a relationship, but it starts with these two folks. It's different than other ones where we have direct control, but I intend to continue to do that, whether it's through Friday night dinners together or whatever it takes.
So we will have these, when can we anticipate some structure, some actual details?
Within the next sort of couple of hours. We've had colleagues, on my side, Ms. Exgen, Mr. Salcido, a dedicated team of a dozen people working around the clock, and we have to go back to our board. Like the union has to go to its members, we have to go to our board and make sure it's ratified, and once we've shared it with our board, we're going to share it with the public, all during the course of the day.
So you don't have any further concerns about insolvency over the next several years that you have?
Oh, we have tremendous concerns about insolvency, tremendous concerns. But what we were able to do is recognize that part of all this is to balance that with the needs of our students and educators in our schools, and the outpouring of support for public education to say, okay, we can take all that, put it together and say we can get through this, because we have tremendous concerns about that. But our students are going to school tomorrow back with their educators. We need to make sure they're well supported. They're going to arrive next year in a class size that's reduced. They're going to go to some of our schools with highest needs. We're reducing class sizes. We're going to reduce class sizes in all of our secondary math and English classes next year. And as we look out to the horizon, we're going to go to our voters, go to the public, and make sure we have more resources, not just to make sure students do better, but to make sure that we are solvent, to make sure we have the resources to continue to build and fulfill the promise.
What are the next steps? Does it go, it'll go to the members first and then to the board, and when do you expect it to go to the board?
So we're doing that concurrently. We have a board meeting scheduled today where we will share it shortly. And I know that the union is doing their own process as a democratic union to make sure each of their members has a voice. We expect both parties sort of before the end of the day to be able to ratify.
You mentioned that foundations were involved in maybe providing funding. Is that a source of funding to help close this gap?
No, and I'll be clear because I know foundations can be trigger words for different people depending on which ones and how. No, it's, folks like when I mentioned Fred Ali, Antonio Hernandez from California Community Foundation, from Weingart, they have been supportive of things like anti-violence work. They've been supportive of some of the green space efforts we've done. So we didn't have any particular ask from them. It's not part of the settlement, but they had very encouraging words of, hey, we'd love to get further involved. If we have an accord, count on us to lean in. And I think collectively they will be a part of that solution, as well as the private sector. I mean, where possible, I'd like to see businesses in Los Angeles. We've tripled the number of summer youth jobs, for instance, in LA over the last 5.5 years. But every high schooler should have a paid, meaningful internship in something she's interested in the summertime, and we want to see the private sector step up, and they can do great things like they do in Boston and other school systems. So it really will be everybody who's interested in public education, which should be everybody, will have a seat at this table, and I hope that we can kind of formalize some of that. There are task forces we've been asked to sit on as part of the agreement from the mayor's office. The green space stuff would be city, county, state together with the school district and union, other unions I assume as well. I mean, it's a really great foundation. Can't do everything overnight, but if we can have that culture be here in Los Angeles, we can lead the nation.
Alex, you talked a lot about the reserve of the district and wanting to use it for whatever you're doing on these negotiations. Are you happy with the amount that's going to be used now? And for both of you, is there more agreement on what the financial situation of the district is, or do you still think that?
So a couple of things. I'll just address quickly the previous question. One of the things that we say as educators and as people involved in organizing is that we teach when we struggle. We teach, our students learn when they see people struggling for what's right. And one of the things that we're very proud of is that the agreement that we have, we're going to use our systems and structures across the city, across 900 work sites, to get the agreement in our members' hands today, have them read it, have them discuss it with their colleagues at their school sites, and then vote and get all those votes back in electronically by tonight so that we know where our members are on this agreement. So we're very proud that folks can learn from that. That's democracy in action, and teachers do it in a great way. On the question of the reserve, yeah, like Austin said, there'll be more details about how much funding is going to different things. I think we, frankly, still have a few differences on some key parts of the district budget, but they weren't differences that were big enough to get in the way of getting to an agreement like this. And one of the things that's most exciting about this, as I think we've all said, is that not only were we able to talk to Governor Newsom about potential monies for the district that could come soon, whether related to special education or community schools or other items, but we also are looking forward at big public school funding initiatives like the Schools and Communities First initiative on the ballot in November of 2020.
Okay, last question, that's right here. Does this contract expire in June? Can you talk about what you expect to do in Sacramento between now and then?
This contract, the contract will expire in, yes, this coming June, and then what it does is it sets up a second 3-year contract there where a lot of the programs will come into place related to this. So the salary is a piece of the first, and then a lot of the other things are a part of the second. In terms of Sacramento and what we plan on doing, we are focused, we as UTLA are very squarely focused working with the steering committee, which we're very proud to be on, of Schools and Communities First, which is the split roll reform of Prop 13, closing the corporate loophole in Proposition 13. We're very focused on that, and we, as well as local ways to be raising funding, which we look forward to working with the city and the superintendent on.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you, everybody. And great job, by the way. Absolutely. Good job. Yeah, that's us.
Oh, thanks to Steve Zimmer.
All right, good job.
Oh,
Are you stuff done?